Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Verdi's Aida, which was live from the Teatro Regio Torino. The conductor was Gianandrea Roseda, the production was done by William Friedkin, the sets and costumes were done by Carlo Diappi, the lights were handled by Andrea Fossi, the choreographers were Marc Ribot and Anna Maria Bruzzese, the chorus master was Claudio Fenoglio, and the animation scenes were done by Michael Curry. When I heard that William Friedkin of the Exorcist film was going to direct this particular production of Verdi's Aida, I was quite interested, fascinated, and even quite excited for what his vision was going to be. Because I mainly knew Mr. Friedkin as a filmmaker and not really as an opera director. Granted, when you have cases like Franco Zeffirelli, they can work both ways, as he was really great not only in terms of film, but also in terms of opera. The other reason why I was really excited about this Aida was the star-studded cast, headed by Kristen Lewis, who sang the titular heroine, Marco Berti, who sang Radames, and Anita Rachberishvili, who sang Amneris. I will gladly talk about the performances much later, but first, my thoughts on the production. Overall, I found it to be really elegant. Not only did it have that pomp, grandiosity, elegance, beauty, and richness that I love in any production of Aida, but it also had a few moments of intimacy, especially when it comes to the relationship between Radames and Aida. Their relationship with each other is made really clear in the first act, where Radames and Aida share a little moment of passion before Aida leaves the stage, thus leaving her shawl on the floor, with Radames picking it up, and even in his aria Celeste Aida, he kind of caresses it and, let's just say, sniffs it, to say that he is not only madly in love with Aida, but he wants her to be a part of his life. And it's those moments that also show Mr. Friedkin's capabilities as a film director. Now, when it comes to film, the biggest principle one must follow is show and don't tell. And he certainly used that principle so well. And on top of that, the lighting was really well done to heighten all those emotional scenes and to really put emphasis where they needed to be. I also have to give a lot of kudos to the choreography for being so well timed, so excellent, and very vivid. And of course, the costumes were absolutely elegant to look at. So overall, I have to give a lot of kudos to William Friedkin and the team for doing a very fine job with this production of Aida. Everything was not only grand in scale, but also quite well done and refined, especially when it comes to a lot of scenes. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Kristen Lewis, who sang Aida. I have mainly followed this particular spinto soprano's career, not only through name, but through her repertoire. She mainly specializes in a lot of these Italianate spinto soprano roles, not only the likes of Aida, but also that of Leonora from Il Trovatore, Leonora di Vargas from La Forza del Destino, and of course, Elisabetta di Valois from Don Carlo. And I have been wanting to talk about this particular spinto soprano because after hearing a couple of clips of her on YouTube, I knew that she was going to be someone to look out for. And she managed to do a very great job with singing Aida. Not only did she sing the part, but she was the part. I consider her to be sort of an heiress to Leontyne Price when it comes to the repertoire she specializes in. Much like her predecessor, Madame Leontyne Price, she specializes in a great deal of the Italian spinto soprano repertoire. And of course, she managed to look really gorgeous as Aida. She was lovely in this role, not only vocally, but physically. She was svelte and gorgeous and really, really beautiful. She had a goddess-like beauty that she was able to play off so well, not only reflected in her theatricality, but in the way she sang her lines. She was also very meticulous as a musician. She knew when she had to thin out certain lines and when she had to go all forte. So I have to give a lot of high marks to Kristen Lewis for her superb rendition of one of her signature roles, and she succeeded in this part with flying colors. Marco Berti was quite solid as Radames, as he's always been. What I do like about Marco Berti is that he is quite dedicated in his craft as a singer. He has squillo, especially evidenced when he sings the high notes, and he has an overall fine stentorian timbre. However, there were some moments of harshness evidenced in his voice, which I'm not really a fan of, but I have to give him a lot of credit for singing everything so expressively and with a lot of drama and bite. And there were times he was kind of stolid in his acting, but there were other times he was able to be quite involved with the drama. And sure, sometimes his intonation might not always be the best, but I still have to give Mr. Berti good amounts of credit for singing everything with abandon. His high notes were definitely incisive, and he had a very good timbre for singing all of these big dramatic parts. Yes, I would have loved to have a slightly fresher voice singer like, let's say, Stuart Skelton or Simon O'Neill, or even that of Rudy Park. Those gentlemen would have also done the role of Radames justice. But I digress. I still have to give Mr. Berti good amounts of credit for singing everything expressively and for being quite involved as a singing actor. There was no doubt that the major star of this Aida was, of course, Anita Rafelishvili as Amneris. Now, you can't have any great Aida without a really wonderful Amneris, and she certainly was exceptional in this role. She managed to embody Amneris with a great amount of beauty, that regal presence which she managed to give off so well, and of course, that burnished timbre which I love in any true dramatic mezzo. She managed to embody this role so involvingly and so palpably that I was practically in love with everything she was as Amneris. She was pretty much the best performer out of the three pivotal roles of Aida, Radames, and Amneris, and she stood out so strongly that I was practically waiting for her moments to come, and she certainly was the gold standard when it came to how she sang Amneris. She had a burnished, smoky timbre, which she's always been well known for, and of course, she managed to play off glamour so well. And it's also another reason why I really love Anita Rafelishvili in roles like this. Roles like Carmen, Dalila, and of course Amneris really do suit her not only vocally, but dramatically. She was able to make Amneris quite the strong character, but she was also able to make her quite multidimensional. One can see her suffering in the judgment scene, which she sold very well. And she was able to make Amneris come to life in her own special way. So there was no doubt that in the three pivotal roles of Aida, Radames, and Amneris, Anita Rafelishvili stood out so well. But I also have to give mad props to Kristen Lewis for her really grand interpretation of Aida. So there was no doubt that both Kristen Lewis and Anita Rafelishvili stood out so well among the soloists. But what about the father figures, Ramses, the King of Egypt, and Amonasro? Well, they were also really great. Starting off with Giacomo Prestia as Ramses, I have to say that he was an absolutely fine vocal form. Yes, what's also kind of noticeable about Mr. Prestia is that these days his voice does seem to go a little bit on the aged side because of the many years he's been singing the basso cantante repertoire. But his characterization, his overall great acting, and his searing sense of drama were very much in evidence of how he was able to interpret Ramses, especially in the judgment scene. One can definitely sense his overall turmoil as he knows that Radames has to die in accordance to what the gods had to ordain upon the priests. It's kind of clear that Ramfis does care for Radames as if though he was his own son, and Giacomo Prestia does manage to convey that quite well. He was able to convey Ramfis's turmoil really well when he has to know that Radames has to go, 6 feet under, because Radames did betray his troops, all because of his great love for Aida. But at the same time, one can see that Ramfis is also priest, so he must do his duty very well. And Giacomo Prestia managed to do a very fine job with this type of juxtaposition, and he was an overall fine singing actor, as he's always been. All thanks to that burnished basso cantante voice. Though slightly aged, managed to have that fullness and richness which I love so much. Insum Sim's King of Egypt was also handsomely sung, all thanks to that fine basso cantante voice, which is so focused throughout all the registers, and his stage presence was strong, handsome, and really regal, obviously. And he managed to do this role well. He made the best out of this character part, all thanks to that tall presence, and also thanks to that noble sounding, rich, round, cavernous basso cantante voice, and his overall charisma. I mean, it's so hard to take my eyes off of Mr. In Sung Sim because he was able to embody this role really well. Mark S. Doss was the absolute standout among the father figures of Ramfis, the King of Egypt, and Amonasro. And he managed to embody Amonasro with a great sense of virility, charm, and strength. And he was pretty much the strongest performer out of the 3 father figures. His voice was burnished in timbre. It had that focused bass baritone / Helden baritone timbre, which I love so much. And he was able to make Amonasro come alive as a character. He made him strong and expressive. He made him absolutely charismatic. And that's the best word to describe someone as fine of a singer as Mr. Mark S. Doss. He was a charismatic singing actor who knew how to embody this role with a great amount of strength, ferocity, and virility. And his voice also reflects on that. It has that wonderful burnished timbre, which I love, and he was an overall handsome and dashing singing actor. We also had such wonderful singing from Dario Prolla's superb and handsome messenger, and I definitely love the way he was able to move around the stage because he is truly a handsome spinto tenor, and it should be no surprise that he also sang the role of Radames. So I do hope to see him in a lot more productions in the coming years because he seems to have a very handsome stage presence and he was quite a strong personality on stage. And of course, Kate Fruchtemann's gorgeous and lovely High Priestess, in which she was able to use her lyric soprano voice to the best of her abilities, and she made the role of the priestess come to life. So overall, the singing was outstanding all across the border, especially when you have pros like Kristen Lewis, who sang a gorgeous and magnificent Aida, Anita Rafelishvili, who sang a regally awesome Amneris, and of course, Mark S. Doss, who sang an awesome and engaging Amonasro. But I also have to give lots of kudos to Marco Verdi, Giacomo Prestia, Insung Sim, Dario Prolla, and Kate Fruchterman for absolutely wonderful vocal portrayals. These professionals were absolutely great from beginning to end, and they were strong performers all around. And the conducting done by Gianandrea Noseda was equally fabulous. He was meticulous in his musicianship, and he was an overall fine conductor, as to be expected from someone as grand as Signore Noseda. And of course, the chorus and orchestra of the Teatro Regio Torino were absolutely fabulous. So overall, with a really fine production done by Mr. William Friedkin, and of course, great singing ranging from Kristen Lewis all the way up to Kate Fruchterman, and of course, great conducting done by Gianandrea Noseda, this production of Aida is a definite must watch and a must listen. And for those of you who saw this particular production of Verdi's Aida at the Teatro Regio Torino, what did you think of it? Did you feel like Kristen Lewis and Anita Rafelishvili stole the show as the rival princesses? Did you feel like the likes of Mark S. Doss, Giacomo Prestia, In Sung Sim, and even to some extent Marco Berti stole the show as the father figures and Radames respectively, or even the likes of Dario Prolla and Kate Fruchtelman in the smaller roles of the messenger and the priestess? Or did you feel like there was someone from the singers or even the production that was kind of sticking out like a sore thumb? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in much later for my final review here in Verona, which is that of Verdi's Nabucco at the Arena di Verona. So until then, have a great day, everybody.